Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you here. Um, just sitting here thinking I'm going to start like Mr. Rogers. I'm going to start coming on singing "It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood." And no, I wouldn't do that to you. But I will take some time and talk to you a little bit about the 76th Psalm. We are now, the 76th Psalm. I don't know where my mind zipped off to there for just a moment. We are now officially halfway through the book of Psalms, and excuse me. And so we will get started now on the second half of this great book. I hope you have. One of the things I hope has come out of this is that we've learned that there is good theology in the Book of Psalms. It's not just um, a book full of the 23rd Psalm. And you're going to see even more of that as we move through into the second half. And so the 76th Psalm is a great psalm. I've probably said that at every psalm, but I like John Phillips in his commentary as his heading for this psalm is "When God Steps In," and I think that's cool. It is a psalm of when God has stepped in and intervened in a mighty way in the life of Israel. Many believe, we're not 100% sure, but some think that this psalm was actually originally written by David and then later was brought out and used after the Assyrians were defeated, and that David again actually was the original writer, but that it had just kind of been shuffled back, but then it got put into the hymn book. And so it is addressed to the chief musician. Again, it says a song of Asaph, and I'm don't want to rob Asaph of credit, but again, just letting you know that some do think that David was actually the author. I don't know. I'm probably just going to stick with Asaph since that's what we have pinned here. It was written to the chief musician on Neganoth. And so, as we read this psalm, again, it is most likely uh, after the defeat of Assyria. But whenever it was after some great victory in the life of Israel. It would make sense, again, coming right after the 75th Psalm, that it was related to the battle, the defeat, God's defeat of the Assyrians. And so, as we look at this psalm it's a reminder again of the victory, the intervention of God, the power of God, whether it be in our life over whatever issue, some some personal issue, maybe trying to kick a bad habit, whatever that God has the ability and the power to help us through this. That He can give us the victory. And so we're going to dig into this psalm. It breaks apart in three pretty even little pieces, which makes me happy that it means we will finish evenly with 76 Psalm, Lord willing, come Saturday. So let's jump into the first 6 verses. And depending on, again, the Bible you're looking at, you can see that is a section, depending on the publisher and how they decided to lay out the text. But beginning in the first verse here, it begins with a victory song. It's almost like at the end of the end of a football game when the band plays the fight song. It begins with that they begin by praising God, by lifting up God, acknowledging Him as the source or the reason for their victory, and His presence with them, and that He had protected and provided for them. And so they praise Him first of all. As we begin, it says, "In Judah is God known. His name is great in Israel. In Salem also is his tabernacle, and his dwelling place in Zion. There brake he the arrows of the bow, the shield, the sword, and the battle, Selah." And so the psalm begins by praising God that He actually is present with His people. Again, God is known. His name is great in Israel. He is in His tabernacle, His dwelling place in Zion. And so, again, Asaph here is praising God, and because He has shown Himself to the people of Israel, that His name was lifted up, and so, and He names some things here. As you look at this, He talks about Judah. Look at I think it's important to see this. He says in Judah, which was the part of Israel where it is the part, not was, but is the part of Israel where Jerusalem is. Then Israel, the nation. Salem in verse 2 is actually another name for Jerusalem. If you notice, Salem is the last part of the word Jerusalem. And Zion either usually refers to Jerusalem or many times specifically to the place where the temple is located. And so he says, in all these ways, all these places, that God has made Himself known in Israel, and they are praising Him, and then He breaks the arrows, the shield, the sword. He has been the defender, the victor for the nation of Israel by demonstrating His great power to them. He continues and says, "Thou art more glorious and excellent than the mountains of prey. The stout-hearted are spoiled. They have slept their sleep, and none of the men of might have found their hands. At Thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariot and horses are cast into a dead sleep." It's a little strange sounding, that dead sleep thing and all. But again, what the psalmist is doing here, Asaph is praising God, basically because He's perfect, because He's done everything correctly, that He is that His in what He has done, His holiness has radiated. That through His presence and through His power that He described in the first 3 verses, He is saying that the holiness of God has been evident. And I'm going to run down a little bit of a path here that I really, a little bit of a rabbit hole that I didn't really have intended, but I think that's a challenge for you and I, that the power and presence of God in our life would demonstrate the holiness of God to those who we come in contact with. Um, and so these men who came against Israel, the stout-hearted, he calls them in verse 5, they've been defeated. They have been overcome. And they have been destroyed. At thy rebuke, O God of Jacob, both the chariot and the horses are cast into a dead sleep. And so Asaph is reminding us here that whatever power, whatever comes against us, whatever it is, whether it's a bad habit, whether it's a financial crisis, a health crisis, whatever it is that comes against you, whatever it is you're dealing with today, Asaph reminds us that our God can come against it simply, and I may be reading more into it than I should, but I like what he says here in verse 6, at thy rebuke. God just simply said, stop. He just put an end to it. At thy rebuke, he doesn't even have to go fight them. He just rebukes them, and they are defeated. And so we are, I hope we are reminded of that and will remember that as we face various struggles and enemies in our walk with the Lord. Whatever that enemy may be, again, it can be any number of things. What I see when I read this is this huge army of the Assyrians that had basically just swept through the Middle East and made, I think I used the phrase like a knife, like a hot knife through butter. The other day is how they had marched across the Middle East and destroyed and defeated anything and everything in their path. But when they come up against God, at his rebuke, they were defeated. And so the lesson for us as we come through these 6 verses is that whatever the Assyrians are throwing at you, whatever you're coming against, or whatever's coming against you, is not greater than your God. That your God is a great God, and he is on the throne, and he can overcome any enemy. And then the onus we carry that thought through is that ultimately it is the victories in our life are God's victories, and we give God the credit and the glory for the great things he has done. I like that old hymn, to God be the glory, great things he hath done. And that's a great motto, marching order for you and I as we deal with the adversities and the battles, whatever they look like, of our life. And so this morning, I hope that'll be an encouragement to you that whatever you're facing, whatever struggles you're going against, whatever enemy is coming against you, that you know that your God, at his rebuke, at his simple statement, he spoke this world into existence. He spoke day and night. He spoke, and it was so, is what Genesis tells us. And he can take care of the battles and the issues that we face. All right, you have a great day. We'll see you back here first thing Friday morning. All right, goodbye.